All right, so Sam Altman had that moment, right? That viral clip where he just said, enough. And you can feel it, like actually feel it. This wasn't some polished keynote or rehearsed answer. This was raw, unfiltered Sam Altman looking tired, pissed, and honestly, just done. So here's what happened. There's this interview, right, with Brad Gerstner. He's from Altimeter Capital. And Sam's sitting there with Satya Nadella. And it's supposed to be this big, calm talk about OpenAI's future and AGI and all that. And then Brad just asked this one question. It's like, dude, how the hell can OpenAI commit $1.4 trillion to compute when your revenue is like, what, 13 billion, maybe 20 max? And Sam snaps. He goes, first of all, we're doing way more revenue than that. And second of all, if you want to sell your shares, I'll find you a buyer. Like, damn, he actually said that. And you can tell from his tone, it wasn't playful. It wasn't confident, calm Sam. It was like, I've heard enough of this crap. Stop doubting us. All right, so first let's look at this thing that's been going viral on X right now.
You guys not made these huge bets. With all that said, OpenAI's revenues are still a reported $13 billion in 2025. And Sam, on your live stream this week, you talked about this massive commitment to compute, right? 1.4 trillion over the next 4 or 5 years with, big commitments, 500 million to NVIDIA, 300 million to AMD and Oracle, 250 billion to Azure. So I think the single biggest question I've heard all week and hanging over the market is how can the company with 13 billion in revenues make 1.4 trillion of spend commitments? And you've heard the criticism,
First
Sam.
of all, we're doing well more revenue than that. Second of all, Brad, if you want to sell your shares, I'll find you a buyer. I just enough. People are. I think there's a lot of people who would love to buy OpenAI shares. I don't think you would,
including myself. Including myself.
People who talk with a lot of breathless concern about our compute stuff or whatever that would be thrilled to buy shares. So I think we could sell your shares or anybody else's to some of the people who are making the most noise on Twitter, whatever, about this very quickly. We do plan for revenue to grow steeply. Revenue is growing steeply. We are taking a forward bet that it's going to continue to grow, and that not only will ChatGPT keep growing, but we will be able to become one of the important AI clouds, that our consumer device business will be a significant and important thing, that AI that can automate science will create huge value. So, there are not many times that I want to be a public company, but one of the rare times it's appealing is when those people are writing these ridiculous OpenAI is about to go out of business and, whatever. I would love to tell them they could just short the stock, and I would love to see them get burned on that.
To really understand what's going on with OpenAI, you have to start with their biggest partner, Microsoft. Back in 2019, Microsoft invested $1 billion into OpenAI, which at the time looked like a bold move. Now that number is over $13 billion. They are basically the fuel in OpenAI's rocket ship. But here's the strange part. This isn't just a normal investment. It's this weird, complex partnership with conditions that almost sound like science fiction. Recently, investor Brad Gerstner actually grilled Satya Nadella and Sam Altman on stage. And what he pulled out from that conversation is the key to everything.
Exclusivity. Sam, OpenAI can distribute its models, its leading models on Azure, but I don't think you can distribute them on any other leading the big clouds for 7 years until 2032. But that would end earlier if AGI is verified. We can come back to that. But you can distribute your open source models, Sora, agents, codecs, wearables, everything else on other platforms. So, Sam, I assume this means no ChatGPT or GPT-6 on Amazon or Google.
No, so we have first of all, we want to do lots of things together to help, create value for Microsoft. We want them to do lots of things to create value for us. And there are many, many things that will happen in that category. We are keeping what Satya termed once, and I think it's a great phrase, of stateless APIs on Azure exclusively through 2030, and everything else we're going to, distribute elsewhere. And that's obviously in Microsoft's interest too. So we'll put lots of products, lots of places, and then this thing we'll do on Azure, and people can get it there or via us. And I think that's great.
And then the rev share, there's still a rev share that gets paid by OpenAI to Microsoft on all your revenues that also runs until 2032 or until AGI is verified. So let's just assume, for the sake of argument, I know this is pedestrian, but it's important, that the rev share is 15%. So that would mean if you had 20 billion in revenue, that you're paying 3 billion to Microsoft, and that counts as revenue to Azure. Satya, does that sound about right?
Yeah, we have a rev share, and I think as you characterized it, is either going to AGI or till the end of the term. And I actually don't know exactly where we count it, quite honestly, whether it goes into Azure or somewhere else. That's a good question. It's a good question for Amy.
Given that both exclusivity and the rev share end early in the case AGI is verified, it seems to make AGI a pretty big deal. And as I understand it, if OpenAI claimed AGI, it sounds like it goes to an expert panel, and you guys basically select a jury who's got to make a relatively quick decision whether or not AGI has been reached. Satya, you said on yesterday's earnings call that nobody's even close to getting to AGI, and you don't expect it to happen anytime soon. You talked about this spiky and jagged intelligence. Sam, I've heard you perhaps sound a little bit more bullish on, when we might get to AGI. So I guess the question is to you both, do you worry that over the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to end up having to call in the jury to effectively make a call on whether or not we've hit AGI?
I realize you've got to try to make some drama between us here. I think putting a process in place for this is a good thing to do. I expect that the technology will take several surprising twists and turns, and we will continue to be good partners to each other and figure out what makes sense.
Listen to this term, until AGI is verified. Yeah, that's not business language. That's not about profit margins or quarterly results. That's a legal trigger inside a multi-billion-dollar contract based on something that doesn't even exist yet. Think about that for a second. The most powerful partnership in tech right now is built around a future concept of godlike intelligence. You can't analyze OpenAI like a normal company. The numbers won't make sense because it's not built to make sense in the normal way. It's a mission dressed up as a company. It's a research project with a term sheet. And Microsoft's share of the deal only lasts until AGI is declared real. The moment a panel of experts says, okay, this thing is AGI, everything changes. Microsoft's exclusivity ends. The structure of the whole deal resets. And that's wild, because Microsoft is literally funding the thing that could escape their control the moment it works. And that belief, that almost religious faith in the coming of AGI, that's what drives the spending. That's why they're building something like Stargate, a rumored $100 billion supercomputer. $100 billion for one data center? And that's where the pressure starts to show. Sam Altman has been pushing this dream so hard that the financial weight of it all finally started to show cracks. So here's the reality. If you're going to build AGI, you need compute. Massive levels of it, thousands and thousands of GPUs, the most advanced chips in existence, and Sam has been flying around the world trying to raise money for it. The numbers are insane. $500 billion for Stargate, $100 billion for NVIDIA, another $100 billion for AMD, then billions more with Amazon, Intel, TSMC, Oracle. Some reports even say the total plan could reach $7 trillion. And then you look at OpenAI's revenue, maybe 10 to 20 billion soon if we're generous, and you realize the gap is huge. Billions coming in, trillions going out. That's the big question hanging over OpenAI. Is this visionary, or is it the most spectacular burn of money ever? And that's the thing, the AI race right now, it's not about who's smarter or who's got the cooler model, it's about who can survive losing money the longest. Google can lose money forever. They've got ads, YouTube, search, that's all just free cash flow. They can keep AI unprofitable for years just to kill competitors. OpenAI can't do that. If the money runs out, they're done. So when Brad asked that question, he's not trying to be rude, he's asking what everyone's thinking. How can this model even work? And Sam knows the math doesn't look good. He knows they're walking a tightrope. So yeah, he snapped a little bit. And then here's the funny part. Like 30 minutes later, Sam just leaves the interview. He's like, yeah, I gotta go. And drops off. And Satya stays. Brad kind of laughs it off and says, hey, just to be clear, I'm a buyer, not a sell. Like, bro, he had to clean it up on air because the tension was real. And you know what? This moment, it's more than just Sam being mad. This is a glimpse into what's really going on behind closed doors, because this isn't just a company story, it's a capital war. Compute versus cash. Google, Anthropic, Meta, they're all fighting in this same space, but Google's the monster. They can afford to run AI at a loss forever. They've got ads, YouTube, search. That's all just free cash flow. They can keep AI unprofitable for years just to kill competitors. OpenAI can't do that. If the money runs out, they're done. So when Brad asked that question, he's not trying to be rude, he's asking what everyone's thinking. How can this model even work? And Sam knows the math doesn't look good. He knows they're walking a tightrope, so yeah, he snapped a little bit. And then here's the other problem. OpenAI is losing market share too. People don't talk about that enough. In 2023, they had like half the enterprise LLM API market. By 2025, they're down to 25%. Anthropic's leading with 32, Google's got 20, Meta's around 9. That's a big shift. That means trust is moving elsewhere. Big enterprise clients are choosing Anthropic because of data control, compliance, clean integrations, all the boring but important stuff. OpenAI's brand is huge, but the business layer, that's slipping away. And that's what makes Sam's tone make sense. He's not just frustrated at a journalist. He's frustrated at the pressure, the competition, the nonstop skepticism. Every single person asking if OpenAI is going broke, he's probably hearing that 50 times a week. So yeah, when he said enough, that was real. That was human, and honestly, I respect it. Like, this guy is carrying one of the biggest bets in tech history, and he can't even show a crack without people turning it into a meme. And think about this. If he actually pulls it off, if OpenAI hits profitability, scales AGI, and becomes the first to deliver real general intelligence, this will go down as one of the craziest stories in business history. So yeah, that's what that moment really meant. It wasn't just a viral clip. It was a glimpse into the heart of this trillion-dollar gamble, the pressure, the conviction, the risk, the human part that no one talks about. And if you're watching this right now, just remember, we're witnessing history in real time. The compute war, the race to AGI, it's happening right now, and Sam Altman is right in the middle of it, bleeding money, burning through critics, betting everything on being first. Enough is enough. That's not a meltdown. That's a declaration. He's saying we're all in, no turning back. And honestly, I kind of believe him.